Well, we'll go ahead and get things going today. Welcome, everybody. My name is Brian Peck. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing here for Mazévo, and we're excited to have you on our monthly Mazévo webinar here today. Oh, there we go. Um, so we do these every month. If this is your first one, welcome. These are something that we do to help educate the Mazévo community and also just kind of get everybody together. We learn from these webinars just as we hope everybody who's joining on learns from them as well. And it's a great way for us to interact with everybody and do things that way. So today we are super excited because we've had some customers of ours graciously offer their time to share some tips and tricks on how they use Mazévo, and we've got a really good lineup for you that way. So before I introduce them, though, just a few words on how these things usually flow. So once we get things going, we'll kind of go through our main content there. I am planning on saving a few minutes at the end for Q&A. So if you do have questions, you can save them for then. Or if you don't want to save them, you can also just put your questions in the chat here today, and we'll try to catch your questions that way and address them to whoever the presenter is that you have questions about. So we do like it when these are interactive. So we'll just try to get to as many of the questions as we can if possible. And yeah, that's the way these things usually roll. Before we get started, also, I want to give a shout out to our new customers this month. This month things kind of slow down for us here at Mazévo. We're a very seasonal company, so summer is the big time for us. We're really busy, but then once fall and school starts up again, we don't get quite as many people joining on board, but we did get one this month. So Louisiana State University, the Transportation Research Center. I don't know if they're on the call today, but if they are, welcome to the Mazévo Club. So we're excited to have them here. Most everybody probably knows our staff, but if you're new, you probably don't. I am joined by a couple of other Mazévo staff here today. So if you're seeing all of our little squares in the screen, I've got Claire DeGroat, who works with me on the sales team as an account executive here. I've got Wendy Newland, who's one of our Mazévo trainers, and I've got Joe Finley as well, who's also a Mazévo trainer, and then Dean Evans, who's our CEO slash number one support person as well. So anyways, yeah, so that's who we have here on the call. And then of course, our special guest today. So I'll go ahead and the way we're going to do this, we're going to kind of go through an order. I've got our presenters up here on the screen. Our first presenter today is going to be Sarah Stromenger from Arizona State University, and she's going to be talking a little bit about a feature or two that they use there in Mazévo. So without any further ado, I'll just go ahead and turn it over to Sarah and we'll get things rolling.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Hi, everyone. I am Sarah Strominger. Very excited to be here today. I am representing Arizona State University and specifically our student unions and centers team. So I served in this capacity for about 2 years, working specifically on our reservations team at the Tempe campus in Phoenix. And just to give a little snapshot of our day-to-day function, Arizona State University is a public university. We have 4 physical locations in the Phoenix area, but I'm based on that Tempe one specifically. And then for our reservations team, I served as a program manager, and then we have 2 additional professional staff event coordinators, along with a student team ranging from 4 to 6, depending on how many we have hired at any given time. So we manage the intake of reservation requests and use of space for 2 of our student unions and centers buildings at Tempe, along with outdoor space as well. And we also have some what I would call like passive reservation spaces as well, things like banners, window painting, those sorts of things. So we have about 100 active reservation spaces that we use in Mazévo. Last year, as a snapshot, we had our hands on just over 4,300 events, about 15,500 bookings, and those were made by about 630 unique organizations within the system. So we have a lot of moving parts going on. So what I'm here to talk about today is how we utilize the event coordinator feature within Mazévo. We have a very intentional event coordinator assignment process that we use internally, but we've been able to pair that with some of the features in Mazévo so that we have a very clear understanding of our workflow as a team. We are a small team for the amount of reservations that we do process. And our team not only does the administrative side of that, but we're meeting with clients, we're answering questions for some of our colleagues and peers who also need information. So we try to make sure that we have a really streamlined process in that regard. So I'm going to jump right into sharing my screen and show a little bit more of the hands-on of how we do what we do. So Mazévo, for those who aren't familiar, does have an event coordinator designation within the system. So I'm actually going to start there for those who may not be familiar with it. It lives under settings and then under users. And the event coordinator feature is an optional designation that you can add. So I'll use myself as the example here. And for anyone who has the kind of administrative privileges, so whether that's a global administrator or the other way that this would pop up is with the event planner designation under this user setting, you can toggle on or off event coordinator. And later I'll show where that actually shows up, but essentially this is making a decision of if you want this person to be listed as a potential event coordinator or not within the system. So if you just select this and don't do anything additional, it will show up as your name as it is in the system. But you can also add some additional context here under this title field. So I've added my email just to show the example of how that will show up later. So again, that's where that feature actually lives within the system if you're not familiar with it. Let me hit save. So in the day-to-day of the process for our event and meeting services team at Tempe, we very heavily rely on the day-at-a-glance view for this. And we all have it situated so that when we come to day at a glance, we're seeing new requests or changes that have been requested that we need to actually go in and process in some way. So this is actually a great example here. There is an EC or event coordinator column, and we utilize that very heavily. That's a fairly new feature in Mazévo. We're very thankful for that column. It's super helpful to us. And what you see here is initials indicating that this particular reservation has an event coordinator assigned to it. But then as you look further down, there are some that are blank. So our student team primarily are the ones who go in day to day and are looking at that column and new requests that have come in to see, okay, do we need to assign an event coordinator or not? And so they would go in and recognize, okay, this needs some attention, and would click into the reservation. Now I'm actually pulled up a test one just to not mess with active reservations, but essentially if you click any of these hyperlinked names, it's going to bring you to the administrative view of the reservation or request that's been put in. And to add the event coordinator, there's two spots. So it's either under this event kind of drop down area, and you can click change here, or you can click change on the upper right-hand side. Either way, it's going to bring you to the same screen. And this is where we type in those event coordinators. So again, internally, we have our system for, depending on which organization it is, our team knows who's the best point of contact typically for that event. And then our students handle certain types of reservations as well. So in this case, if I want to assign me as the event coordinator, all I need to do is go in and start to type my name. If on that user screen for my account or profile, I hadn't selected event coordinator, my name is not going to populate here. So that's where you kind of toggle that feature on or off. But once I add my name and click save, it will add here on this administrative view. So I now have context that I'm the person who's supposed to be helping with this event, and anyone else who has that administrative view in the system does as well. From the client or requester side in the system, where this information for us lives most readily is in the confirmation messages that we send to our clients. So when I click email, and it's going to pull up that preview of the message that we send once we start to process through the reservation requests. The event coordinator piece lives in this kind of upper right-hand corner, just under the headers here. And you can see it defaults to my name, and that would be there regardless of if I had added any other context in. But because I added my email as well, then that's going to show here too. So that a big reason, besides just staying organized internally, why we added this in, is we found over the past 2 years coming into the space that it was really helpful for organizations that we work with and those primary points of contact for reservations to know who their best point of contact was, rather than sending them to a general email or routing them to 3 of us, and some of us have context, some of us might not. It might get confusing or delayed. We wanted them to just know to the best of our ability who the best point of contact for them is. So that's the kind of quick overview of how we add event coordinators and just kind of use that day to day. But the other feature that we use very heavily when it comes to this event coordinator designation is a report, or technically a view, that we use within the Find Events feature in Mazévo. So we've created a number of views, which are similar to reports, that help us be able to quickly see what is on our docket to be working on, what is coming up, what are the requests that are outstanding and pending that we haven't worked on yet, what are the bookings that have been booked but maybe still have some information that's outstanding. So there are a number of ways you can do this, but one of the things that we developed are a number of, again, these views that help us see just what's on deck. So we did 2 sets of these with event coordinators in mind. One is a list of approved events. So again, those are booked, and either might mean details are confirmed and everything is good to go, or we're able to quickly identify we still need to close out some information about this particular event, but it's no longer pending. And then you see we use these in a lot of different ways, but for event coordinators, the other set of these views that we have is requests, which for us indicates something is pending and needs our approval. We need to give attention to that to make sure it's fully processed and booked in the system as well. So I want to show how we set these up. And I've kind of pre-filled one of these for sake of time. But if you go to events, find events, you're going to land under this main page. It's going to default to standard. And where you start to build out this more customized or individualized view is under advanced. And so if I'm maybe approaching this from the lens of, I want an event coordinator report that shows events that are booked, they're not pending anymore, but they still have some details outstanding. I've set our date range just to the end of what we consider our reservation year here. I'm keeping it at bookings. You can do events or other things, but bookings help me see individual spaces that I need to pay attention to. And then display columns, you can customize this. There's a lot of different options. One thing I've added here is event coordinator. So when I actually use this filter or view, it will let me have that as part of the output of information. And then I've added some filters. So for my purpose, in this case, I've done our buildings, I've done our status, that for us indicates details are still outstanding in some way. And then the other filter, and there are a number of them, but the important one here is event coordinator, which allows me to narrow just down to me or whichever of my team members I would be building this out for. And then when I do search, this will output for me, based on the parameters I've put in, those bookings connected to events that still require some attention from me. And then how we've added this into this find events views space is if you like the parameters, you like the information that's outputting, you click save view. And you can name this whatever you want. And then you can choose to make this either individual to you, or in our case, we make it available to others. And then that's what allows this to live under public views. And if I were to click this, again, I'll run it just based off the dates that are in there. It's showing me, you can play around with how it organizes here, but it's showing me all of those reservations that fit the parameters I've put into place, and then helps me in my day-to-day sort of see what my workflow is. So that's a very quick overview of that feature and the way that we use it, but we found it to be, again, very helpful just to keep us organized. My team doesn't have to pull separate reports all the time if they're trying to get a sense for where they are at. And between the event coordinator feature and the find events feature, we touch both of those daily in the work that we're doing. So I will pause there for sake of time, but happy to field or help with any questions either now or towards the end of the webinar as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. That was great. It was great to see some of that behind the scenes stuff. Quick question. When you showed us the event coordinator on the confirmation, was there much of a education process for your customers to say, hey, if you have questions about your event, this is the person to talk to?
So a little bit yes and no. There was some familiarity with that piece of the process as we came in and were using Mazévo. But I will say that we do build language into our confirmation messages, into the information that goes into inboxes to say, reach out to your event coordinator. Here's where you can find that information. And only a year ago, we switched to the requester process. So we also built that into some webinars that we were hosting ourselves, just with how do you use this? How do you find information? But we still get regular calls to like our general desk. And so we'll field those, of course. But yeah, it's been pretty intuitive for the team.
Yeah, that's great. Great. Yeah. Well, thank you. So I'll let you know if any questions come in here at the end. So big virtual round of applause for Sarah there. So thank you. So, all right. Well, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our second presenter today. We're going to go ahead now and turn it over to Emily Vaughn. Emily is with the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, a relatively new customer here for Mazévo. So Emily's going to talk about a specific feature that they use here in Mazévo. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Emily. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, yes, so I'm Emily Vaughn. I'm the Senior Events Manager for the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. We're definitely the smallest organization on this call. We're a think tank based in Washington, D.C., but we have offices in Berlin, Brussels, Beirut, and Singapore. And so we're in our D.C. office where I work closely. I'm the sole events person in our org. We host about 100 public events a year. I think we're going to break that this time around, as well as thousands of meetings that can be, small donor meetings to White House, to large government officials, conferences, multi-day things like that. So we sort of have a wide range of things. I work primarily on our public programming as a member of the comms department. So I work on everything from virtual events and conversations to large policy launches, partnered government events, things of that nature. And so in our system, it is myself, one events coordinator who works with me, and the comms team. We both do all of the logistics and all of the communications and promotion of the events. So we're wrangling a lot in this system. And then we have one AV technician and one business or conference center manager. So our system is set up pretty much exclusively for the four of us as admins, and everyone else is a requester. We came previously off of System Triple C, which is a hospitality tool, and it was chaos. So Mazévo's been really important for us, kind of reining people in, so they can't do whatever they want because there's no tiers. So that's been really helpful for us. We have 2 large event spaces and several conference rooms, and so we really rely on, and one of the big asks we got from our program staff who work with our scholars was that when they book an event in Mazévo, they only have to answer the questions or fill things in that are relevant to the type of event they're having. So previously, if you were holding a 2-person meeting or a 250-person event, you had the exact same form and process. And so what we really relied on is event questions as our way of customizing the experience of booking the event. So based on the event type you select, you're going to get a different set of event questions. So if you're just having a meeting, you don't have to answer, are you having a book talk? What kind of recordings do you need? All of those details. So the event questions have been key to customizing. But what's been difficult is that we moved over a month ago, hundreds of events through November 2025. So all of those bookings, including our high volume, very complex in-person public events, had no information beyond the date and the name, and they missed all of the event questions that clarify their needs. No, the resources transferred over because it was a totally different system. And so I can share my screen. So in addition to using event questions, they're what we rely on. I'll show here. You see, we kind of have a range of event questions. We've created these to think of everything that a program staffer wouldn't tell us that we have to know to execute the event properly, in particular for our large public events. We've relied on our event questions. This is very important to us. And one thing we've started using recently is adding questions that are manual so that we can launch them when we're ready to. And that's how we've been using the request for information. So to get us out of inboxes and to not constantly be on Teams and Outlook trying to figure out, do you need catering help? Wait, do you need beer and wine? You know, kind of what are your needs? We're able to build them into the questions. And so what I'll show you is one of those transfers that we had that was completely empty. So if we go into our event book, we have this event, a report launch for something on leapfrogging technologies. And if you go into one of its many bullets, there in the event questions, we have nothing. And this is a large hybrid public event where we expect at least 100 people. There'll be printed materials. And so this is where, instead of emailing this program coordinator, I can select any of our questions, manual or not, to understand what their needs are. So I can ask, one thing we do is you may have everyone in person participating in the event, but the audience can watch virtually on YouTube or in person. That's going to determine what we need to do for setup. So we can ask this question to them. I can notify the requester to answer the question and set the due date. And so I'll say we need it Monday because that would be 2 weeks out from the event date. They're going to get a notification. I'm going to see the due date. We can both see it. And instead of having to send back and forth asking, it's going to be in here, I'll know, they'll know, we're all on the same page. We can do this for if you need the vendor you're using, if there's a publication associated, all of these things. One thing that's important in our system is when we did our trainings and told them that we would be using this, it's laid out when you're going to have these questions and deadlines based on the date of your event. So there's no surprise. Why didn't you ask me sooner? I don't know yet, you know, those kinds of things. And we try to customize that date around when they're likely to have the information. We're working with academics and congressional speakers and people who will tell you 2 hours before what the program is and what's happening. So we try to be understanding, but control as much as we can. And so for those types of events, this add question has been great because I'm starting at 0, but instead of getting in my inbox, I can just do it all in Mazévo versus emailing and then going back and recording. So it just keeps us all in the system, which has been a huge help. The other way that we've been using it is for events. Once they're fully booked, one of the things that we get a lot of feedback on from programs was that there are certain things they're just not going to be able to do when they book the event. So one thing that's critical to us is we have speakers, staff briefs, and run of shows. When something's an event question, you have to answer when it's booked. So if we were to set upload your run of show, which is the only way to get a document for them at the date you're booking an event, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, months ahead, they're not going to have it. And we need to understand that. And so where we've also used event questions is for document uploads. 24 and 48 hours before, we've added the question. Let's see if I'm on here. then add final catering details. Or see, I think I might have answered my question. That's no problem. We'll go to one I haven't answered it because this is my event, so I know I answered it. We'll go to Thursday. Teams weekly meeting. And this is where we're using that function. So I can say, a lot of questions. Upload your event, run a show, notify the requester. We're going to say it's 2 days before, so this is next week. I'm going to say it was, tomorrow. They're going to be notified, and that's how they can upload the document into the system on their timeline when it's reasonable for them to have it. And so that's been really helpful for us to get catering orders in. We had something where when we first started using it, one of our staffers said, you need to post this in your document section. I kind of quietly had to email them. They don't have that. But they do have this manual question function. So it sort of gives them the ability to get things into the system, get us out of email and inboxes as much as possible. And so it's been a huge help, both getting things into the system for empty migrate events months ahead, but also for those things that you're not going to have when you're booking, but we need to have it. And I don't want to have to send you my 5th email of the week asking where's this thing. So it's been really, really helpful for us. And has made the transition much smoother. And I think scaled back a lot of the questions and where's this and where's that. So we've loved the tool. It's a huge help for us, both for migration and just day-to-day questions.
Nice. Awesome. Excellent. Thank you, Emily. That was great. That's a relatively new feature that we've got here in Mazévo. So this is probably the first time that many people have actually seen that in action there. So it's great to see you all have embraced that there. So excellent. All right. Well, let's see here. I did see a little bit of somebody, Sarah saying she loves this feature as well. So that's great. All right. Well, thank you, Emily. And big virtual round of applause for Emily. I don't know if everybody can hear it, but I definitely can. So thank you for that. Our next presenter today is Jennifer Smith. Jennifer is from Boston, Cambridge, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Jennifer.
Hi there, and welcome this afternoon. I know I've already taken down several notes, so thank you both to Sarah and Emily for some great ideas. So I work at MIT for an organization as the assistant director for the Campus Activities Complex. What I do is a little bit like an administrative officer, so this is like part of my job, Mazévo. But I do oversee the scheduling, event planning, finances, billing, communication, statistics, and technology. And Mazévo, which we've been using for 2 months. So a little bit about our organization, and then we'll get right into our special feature to show you today. We steward a series of buildings on campus, including our student center, which is open 20 hours a day, 7 days a week during the academic year. And we do building management, work orders and cleaning and setting up and breaking down events. And we do about 15,000 events a year. And we have about 68 rooms that are very popular, ranging from an 1,100 seat auditorium to a black box theater, chapel, and even as a room, we have our mascot costume, Tim the Beaver, MIT's mascot. For service providers, we do use inventory and room setup and billing. And what I'm going to show you today was actually a game changer for a number of our organizations on campus. And that is, I'm going to show you the filter that you can use in the event book. So let me share here. Okay, so it's right in this column. So in the event book under the events. So if we go in here, see all of our goodies on today's date. So we have, and I know that Wendy told us about this in the beginning, but we had a client who said to us, it's like, I see all this space, but I only want to know what's available. And we were like, yeah, right. Yeah. But we'll ask Wendy again about that. And here we go. And we can actually choose empty rooms and apply that filter. And whoa, suddenly I can see everything that's available. Oh, I have a last minute need. I've got little theater. So it allows us to quickly do this, as well as you can also punch the little weekly tab. And how many of us actually have to sort of search? Our conference services department was ecstatic because they're going farther into the future where there is more space, but there still might be some things taken. So this was very much a game changer. And I know I'm only supposed to talk about empty rooms, but you do have some other choices here too. I could be working today over the next couple days, and I could choose rooms. Excuse me, I have to keep moving all of us to hit the buttons. And there we go. Suddenly I can see what's going on with just what our booking. So very quickly I can go to our student center and I can see sort of what's going on. Toggle back to the daily. It's thinking. It says, what did you do to me?
Oh, just scroll up a little bit. Sometimes I think well, you are up.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Just ask it again. Sometimes the toggling. That's all right. We'll go back. That's all right. Sometimes it times out. Here we go. And now we'll do it again. And we'll choose rooms with bookings. There we go. So I can quickly see what's going on across world, sort of a long campus by the Charles River. So this helps me quickly to know what's going on in a glance. And then you also can create a special for yourself. So for example, if I wanted to do large event space that's on the west side of campus, I could come in here and choose just a few things for myself as I was searching. Sorry, guys. And Sala. And I could apply this filter. And now suddenly I can just be looking at these spaces, or I could toggle to a weekly view and search. And so this has been great for us. So as I said, conference services were ecstatic because they always ask us that question. I only want to know what's available. And I'm always like, it's a database. It only tells you what's taken. Well, I can do both now with the filter. So that's very exciting. And it could be one of the managers is planning a cleaning project. They can quickly find out, when can I clean that room? Or when can we do a renovation? What's realistic? What's the slow time of year? And then for the scheduling team, helping people on the phone. Me too. I get a client who says, I can't get Kresge ever. It's sort of like, oh, I've got a Sunday in October. And it makes you be able to meet their needs very quickly. So it's been great for us. So thank you, Mazévo.
Yeah. Thanks, Jennifer. That's a great feature there that I'm sure a lot of folks probably weren't even aware of up there, because it is kind of subtle, to click that little filter button up there. So awesome. Well, thank you very much. All right. Our next presenter is going to be Tammy Jacques from the University of North Alabama. And Tammy's got a few things I know she wants to show us here. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Tammy.
Thank you. Again, I'm Tammy. I'm the Associate Vice President for Student Affairs at the University of North Alabama. I oversee the Center for Student Engagement, which includes over 100 registered student organizations, our student allocation funding process, our University Programming Council, SGA, Fraternity Shorty Life, and other major campus-wide events. I have an amazing team that I work with. But 2 years ago, GUC Operations and Events Management came under my purview, and that is our student union building. They oversee the facility, the game room, and the mail room. And I had 2 professional staff members, admin and student staff. Well, one retired, but all the knowledge of Mazévo went with that individual. Some people were trained, but we had a limited amount of people that were familiar with Mazévo, and UNA is still pretty new. We implemented Mazévo in August of 2021, so it was still fairly new to our campus. So I realized a year ago I needed to get into Mazévo, learn it, understand it. So I'm a little bit different in that I don't I do work with it on a daily basis, but I'm not booking the events, but I'm actually looking at it from a campus-wide perspective, on a grander scheme of getting all the schedulers trained, familiar, doing monthly trainings with them, making sure they know how to run the Mazévo for their buildings, and just making sure we're figuring out our processes to be smoother. So we have doubled in a year's time. We have gotten every building on campus into the Mazévo system, and we have cross-trained probably about 40 or 50 people across campus in a year's time. The administration has bought into it. Many of our departments, such as facilities, UNA police, and IT have bought into it. We've still got a little ways to go, but that's really where I've been playing a role, is to streamline communication and how our stuff affects one another. So today I've got 3 features I was going to focus on helping with that implementation, of how it's helped us with implementation. I'll share my screen. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So the first one is, we realized in some of our buildings, we'd have couple of building schedulers for one building. We have a brand new computing and mathematics building, and 2 people were running it. But one had the first and second floors, and another one had third floor. And so we realized we couldn't just give both of them access to all the spaces to reserve. So we had to split it up. So to do that, if you go into your settings, you go into users, and we're going to do room security tags. And that's what this one's focused on. You have these things called security tags that you can create. And you can see that I've created several. We've had a couple buildings that we'll be splitting. So in the computing mathematics floor, I've got floors 1 and 2 created. I assign that security tag spaces. So when you look up computing and mathematics building, you'll see all the floors or all the rooms that are assigned to that security tag. And you can see them right here too on the side. As you notice, I didn't select any of the rooms on the 3rd floor. So when you pull your user up, well, I'll get it in here in a second. You'll see Kelly, which is one of our building schedulers, she is in charge of 2 buildings. So she has reservations. She does the whole booking for Keller and Hall and our Rayburn wing, but she only has the first 2 floors of the computing and mathematics building. Another colleague has the 3rd floor. So the room security tags allows you, I don't know if any of you have buildings where you have schedulers that are in charge of only certain floors. This security tag allows you to set that up for them, to be able to make it easy so that a certain individual has access to only those specific floors. And that helped us. So they can see each other's spaces, but the other scheduler cannot, who's in charge of 3rd floor, cannot book 1st and 2nd floors. So we found that this was a helpful tool because we've had to do that in 2 buildings. Our East Campus building is very similar. So it's just adding those security tags here and then setting that up with a user gives them access to the specific floors or the spaces that you want them to have. So that is the first one. The second one is similar to what Emily was saying with using an event question. So one of our situations that a building scheduler needed was they needed people to review some rules on their website, print a document out, and upload it. So I'm going to show you what we did from the user side, and then I'll go on the back end and show you how we did it in the back end. So I'm going to get the back end set pulled right here. And I'm going to show you how we did on the user side. So for the main room, I'm going to do a little test. We're going to set a little performance. you can see the event questions. This is what it looks like on the user end. So there's some specific information that we ask of the user who's doing the request to submit. But right here, the main room wanted the individuals that are reserving their space to go to their website. So it automatically opens another page, rules. They can fill this page out, sign it and date it, and then they can upload the file by pulling it right here. And so they can save it to their computer and upload the document. And now they've got the signed document, the saying they agree to those rules for that space. So that's how it looks on the user end. To set it up, what you do is you go into those event questions and you add a question. We clicked print. We put right here, please print, sign, upload the main room rental rules agreement. We put a link to that person's website. We gave it a name, and the trigger for it is tied to the location. So it's specific to that building, that space. So we tied it to the location, put the building, put main room, and then saved it. And then we added an attachment and save. So it's a nice little feature to have. So if you have items that you need to have people sign, upload, you can do it using event questions. Similar to Emily's, except for hers was a manual where you can get it at a later point. This just asks for it on the front end. So just another way to use that tool. The other tool I wanted to touch on was parking reservations. So one of the things that we were finding is that there's a lot of events and people are scheduling spaces on campus, but they need to reserve parking. And we wanted to make sure that it was communicating to our police. So I'm going to show you what it looks like on the parking piece of it from a user side. I'm going to use that same example I had earlier. I'm using the main room. The way we set it up was with UNA Police. That's who runs our parking reservations. Hit next. They click parking space, and that's a resource that's set up. You hit next, and then it automatically pulls some additional questions here that we need to see. So the first thing we show is the parking lot map. So it opens up our website. So if somebody's not familiar where to request the lot or the spaces, they can see the map and get familiar with our campus. Once they do that, then we have drop-down box where they can select the parking lot where they need those parking spots at. So they can select if they needed parking spots in lot O reserved, they can pick it. Then they added another question, what type of parking monitoring will you need? And then they could tell us you don't need parking monitors, if you need police to be there so nobody parks in those spaces. If you're going to monitor it from your own staff, it tells police what to do. But what we loved about this was that it linked to the website so that people could see the map if they weren't sure what lot it was called. And then we provided a whole drop-down box of choices for them to indicate what spaces they need and how many spots they needed. So I'm showing you that on that end. Let me get to the other side of it. So how to set it up, the first step was we went to service providers, and you have to connect it to a service provider. So we created UNA Police. That was our first step. The second step, we went to resources, and you can see in UNA Police, we created a parking space reservation. And this is where we said, please indicate how many spaces you need. So you had a question, a resource that you created. But you also, to get it to tag to the event question, the third step is we created a tag. And we created what's called parking spaces. And then we tagged it to that resource. And then the fourth step is we went back to event questions. And when we created the event question, again, we linked to that where I showed you where we linked to the map. We tied it to the service. The trigger was the service. We tied it to the resource tag, parking spaces. And then we said request specific answers. And then we added all those drop down box answers. So when that drop down box had different things to select, that's what we added. And then hit save. So now people, if they have an event and they want to reserve a space and they need parking spots, that's how we did it. They added as a resource. That resource then triggers some additional questions. So it lets police know, where do you need that spot? And are you going to monitor it or not? And we found that as a useful tool. So those are just 3 tools that we found that were very helpful in our process.
Great. Thanks, Tammy. That was awesome, because I know from experience talking to probably several people on this call that parking is a hot commodity on many campuses, especially when you're having large events and things like that. So it's great to see a real world use case like you showed there of that. So thank you for that. All right. Well, our last presenter today is going to be Wendy Newlin, our own Wendy Newlin. She's actually going to be filling in for our overseas customer, who it happens to be, oh, I don't know, it's probably like going on midnight in Greece right now, but the university is the American College of Greece. So we actually have an international overseas customer, and Wendy's going to be talking about a specific use case that they have that probably not everybody's aware of. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Wendy.
Thanks, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my, because I'm not that familiar with the school, I asked them some questions. Can everybody see my screen? Am I showing it from?
Yeah.
Okay. So American College of Greece, founded in 1875, oldest American accredited college in Europe and largest private college in Greece. They purchased Mazévo in November of 23, launched February of 2024. They have 1 event manager. Her name is Georgia. She manages 200 rooms, classrooms, event hall, various auditoriums, a theater, athletic facilities, and a chapel. They add audio-visual services, catering, and room setup. And they've had approximately 37,000 bookings since February. So let me move into what their sneaky little thing that they do is. This is a setting that is turned on behind the scenes, all right? So I'm going to go in as a requester and show you what they are doing.
Wendy, we're still seeing your slide screen here.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yep.
How about now?
Not yet. Oh, there we go. Got it.
Okay. So I'm acting as a requester. I'm going to put in an event. Give it an event type. Let's call it open to the public. This is what is turned on behind the scenes. They're asking for an event description. And I'll tell you why in just a bit here. Attach it to an organization, and then I go about, let's see, 1 of 12. Here's all the service providers that they allow. I do not want any details. Okay. Now, what happens when Georgia goes to approve this event? Mind you, she's the only approver. So she has to take a good look at the event to see if it's a suitable event. So here we are. This is the CPR training that I just booked. And what she does is she oversees, she looks at the event description to make sure that it's something that can be right here. Lots of people are coming. She looks at this and she makes a determination if this is an event that is acceptable, if it needs more publicity, if she needs to pass it over to marketing, if they actually can entertain having this event. So again, this is an optional feature. The other thing that they're going to do is they're going to start using this to promote their events on the calendar, okay? So what do I mean by that? Once this event is approved, and they haven't started this just yet, but they have created calendars. And once they post this on the calendar, that event description will be on the event. And let's see if I've got any. Yeah, this one doesn't have one. My CPR one.
Was it October 1st?
Oh, that's right, October. But this is not the Pierce one. Let me go to the Pierce calendar just to show you. Right here. Major events, that's where it is. To October. Oh gosh, so many events. Well, I don't see my CPR thing, but let's just see if any of these have descriptions. Honestly, guys, there will be an event description right there, and it will allow people to put more.
We trust you. We trust.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yeah.
So that's what the Greek folks are doing. Any questions on that?
Great. Thanks, Wendy. I don't see any
Yeah.
questions so far. Here's a little bit of trivia for you. So you may be wondering, how did we get a customer over in Greece? Well, if you don't know the story behind the name Mazévo, Dean and I were sitting in a coffee shop one day, kind of dreaming up what should we call this company, and throwing ideas around. And we really started looking at just foreign languages and going, hey, do we like the sound of this word? And that's how we found Mazévo. And Mazévo actually means gather in Greek. So these folks over at the college over there in Athens were searching for software, and they saw the name, and I'm sure they probably thought we were a Greek company or something at first, right? But yeah, we ended up being a really good fit for them. So they're great. So anyways, yeah, so all right, well, that's what we had for our presentations today. So I want to first thank everybody who presented today, especially as you heard. I mean, several of these folks haven't been on Mazévo for very long. And so to just step up and volunteer like that to present how they're using Mazévo, we're really appreciative of that. So thank you all for that. And I guess at this point, I'd like to open it up. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself. If you'd prefer to ask your question that way, put it in the chat. But yeah, I thought those were all great presentations. So
I have a question for Tammy.
Yeah.
Tammy, how was the police department receptive to seeing these resources and parking places come in, or how are they getting the information? Are they running a report?
Yes, so we have so they are getting the email notifications that we've got them set up. So they have it going to a police@una.edu. They're getting the notifications about when events are coming in, and they're running reports. So they know they'll establish reports so they know what parking reservations are coming down the pipe for that week. But so far they've been excited about it. And our next step is they do events where they work events. So actually we're going to be adding police to work events and set up billing structure for them. So they're excited about the next step, next phase, where we can bill and actually charge having officers work functions. But so far the police reservation process has been working. They like getting the notifications. What they also like about it, what's been helpful for us, is if an event cancels, they find out about it, because there's been situations on campus where they've done an event reserved through Mazévo, but did their old way. Somebody reserved through their old system. They had it written down on their calendar, but the event got canceled, but nobody notified police, and they still had spots. And well, as you know, when you mark off spots with students, they're not going to be very happy about that. And so,
Right.
especially when an event is canceled. So now the notifications automatically notify them of any changes with the event, and it also notifies them if there's a cancellation too.
Perfect.
So it's really helping with communication.
Great. So you're going to start charging for police.
Yes,
Good.
for events. They charge for already to work events outside the normal work hours. And so we're about to add that feature too.
All right. Looks like Dean got another question that popped in there. So thank you for that. All right. Well, it doesn't look like we have any other questions rolling in, and we are about at our time anyways. So again, thanks for everyone that joined today. I thought this was a great session. We will be doing another one here next month. I can't believe it's almost October already. We're only going to have 2 more Mazévo Connects. I was just telling somebody the other day. So we're going to have one at the end of October. Stay tuned for that. I'll be sending out an email. And then we'll do one probably at the beginning of December after the Thanksgiving break. We'll do our last one of the year then. So anyways, thanks everybody for joining, and I will send out the recording for this video here soon. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.